Hey there everyone, Clifton here at Clifton Creative Academy, and in this tutorial we're going to be learning how to create custom login sections using Elementor Pro. Now custom login sections are something that you probably want to create if you don't want to use the default WordPress login, and the thing that's great about them is that they're pretty nice. Gives it a nice professional touch to your client website, so to your own website if you want to. And there are many kinds that you can create using Elementor Pro. So we have one here where we've got the login form and it's overlapping an image. It looks really good, makes it really pop. This is one that is a lot more simpler, right? So you just have the login form, on the right and an image on the left. And you can even create one like this where you have a video on the left hand side, and then you also have the login form and it's kind of overlapping that video and some clear white spacing. So there are lots of different combinations that you can do to create these, and I'm going to show you how to build these out for yourself so that you can use them on your own site or on your client site. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So the first thing that we're going to do here is I'm going to leave all these up so we can see them. And we're going to create a new section right above this one. And we will start by creating this one first, okay? Because this is the simplest one that you can create. It's just an image on the left and the login form on the right, okay? So let's go ahead and build it out. So right here, we're going to select our structure. I'm going to select a one column structure. I'm going to customize the height of this so that it is fit to screen so that we can have a full screen and we can see what we're doing. Then I'm also going to set the column gaps to no gap. I want the layout here, this box layout, I want it to be 960 pixels. So we have a nice compact login section. And then I'm going to go to the elements here and I'm going to drag in an intersection. Now I'm going to customize this intersection similarly. So I'm going to have a no gap here as well. And then I can start pulling in my elements. The first element that we want is going to be a heading. Okay, and we want the heading to say log into your account. Okay, I'm going to customize this here. Let's just make it black for now so we can see what we're doing. We'll color all this, we'll style all this properly later. The next thing that I want is I want the login form. Now the login form is only available on Elementor Pro. You're not going to have this on the free version of Elementor. So it's basically a login form that lets you log in to the website from the front end of the website. Okay. So now we have our login form, and then the next thing that I also want is I want some spacing between these. So you can either do this with margins or padding, but I'm going to use a spacer so I have a little bit more control. So just come to the elements here and search for a spacer, and then drag in a spacer right between the login text and the form. Okay, and I'm going to give this a height of 20 pixels. Okay, so that looks good. That looks pretty good so far. The next thing that I want to do is I want this form here to be a little bit more compact. So I'm going to put a padding around it. So select the column, go to advanced, and just add some padding around this. In this case, we're going to do 40 pixels. So now we have our login form on the right hand side. Then now I'm going to go ahead and style this so that it matches what we have over here. Okay, so the first thing, of course, is going to be the background of the column. So just select the column, go to the style tab. We're going to select background. We're going to go for color, and we want a similar color to that one that's down there. Okay, so now that we have this color, so the color right here, this is FC6280 if you want to follow along. The login text is going to be white, so select the heading. We're going to go to the style tab. We're going to make that white. Select the form, go to the style tab, and we're going to make the labels white, and we're going to make the typography weight size bold. Okay, so we can see it better. For the form itself, we want the link color to be white as well so that we can see the lost your password there. And for the button, we want the button to be white text, and the background color will be a nice reddish color like that. Okay, so that looks pretty good so far. Now, one of the things you also notice is we put a border around the fields to make it pop a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. Select the form. We'll go to style and we'll go to fields. And here where you have border color, I want the border to be 5 pixels. And we'll make that color a similar red, just like that. Okay, so we've already got this now nicely built. Now, one of the things that you'll notice is that there is a subtle color around here. All right, so this subtle color that we have, I'm sorry, not subtle color, subtle shadow around the form that's making it stick out a little bit. So we're gonna go to this column, select the column. We'll go to border and we'll do a box shadow. Okay, so that we have some color there. I want the blur to be 50. And then I'm going to reduce the intensity or the transparency a little bit. So it's just very subtle. You can just see it there barely in the background. And now we've completed setting up the right side. Let's set up the left side. The left side is going to be very simple. Okay, what we're going to do here is we're going to put an image here and we're going to put it as a background to the column. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and select that column. I'm going to go to style, background, and we're going to plug in our image. So the image is inserted. We're going to go ahead and customize it. So I want it to be in the center. I would like it to not repeat, and the size is going to be cover. Okay, so now we have the lady in there, similar to how we have right here. Okay, now I'm also going to create a little bit of space in here. So I'm going to go ahead and grab another spacer. So go to the elements, search for spacer, and I'll just pull in a spacer right there. Okay, and what that's going to allow me to do is be able to add some spacing if I want to, right? So if I wanted to extend this out a little bit, I get to be able to do that just like that. So it's now spaced out so we can see the person. It also will help us when we look at this on mobile. Okay, so let's look at it on mobile and see how that looks. So I'm going to go here, responsive mode, and I want to see what it looks like on a tablet. So on a tablet, it looks pretty good, right? Holds its shape really nicely. And on a phone, that looks very good as well. So I probably want to reduce this a little bit. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to reduce the size of the lady right there. So it's right there. Okay, so we still get a little bit of the effect, and we can still see the form. Now you can also decide that maybe you don't want to show this part as well. You just want the form to be in there. And if that's going to be the case, then what you can do in that case is you can select the column, go to advanced, go to responsive, and we can say hide this section right here. We want to hide that on mobile. So if you hide it on mobile and we look at it, then you'll only see the form itself. Okay, so the choice is entirely up to you. All right. And but I like to show a little bit of picture, so it looks good. So this is, so for now we have now completed building out that section fairly easily, right? So this is the easiest version that you can do, nice and easy. You can plug this into your website, and this is where people can go ahead and log in. Okay, up next, let's go ahead and build out this really cool version. Now what I like about this version of a login page is that you can see that the form over here overlaps the image, okay, kind of giving it this really cool effect. And you see this a lot of times on other people's websites. I'm going to show you how to be able to do that here using Elementor. It's very easy to do. So let's go ahead and build it out. Now there's a couple ways to achieve this effect. Sometimes people will create a section, a column with an image and a column with a module in there, and then they will use negative margins to pull things across. I'm going to show you a much more cleaner way of doing this so that you can still maintain some good design integrity and not have to use negative margins. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. So the first thing I'm going to do is going to activate our Elementor window here, and we're going to build it right above this one. So just add a section above this section here, and same thing, I'm going to select my structure. I want a one column structure. We're going to set this up to be fit to screen, so full height there, no column gap. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and drag in an intersection. Okay, so that looks pretty good. And same thing, select that section, no column gap. and then we can start building in our form. Okay, so to save time, I'm just going to go ahead and copy this column right here that we already have. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click copy. You already saw how I built out the form. It's the same exact way as I did it in the other one. So same exact thing. I'm going to go ahead and paste that in here. Okay, we're using a heading module and a account module, a login module. I'm going to delete the extra column that just came in here, and now we have our column already set up. The other thing that I'm going to do as well is I'm going to set up this section to be 960 pixels so that it's nice and compact, just like that. Okay, and now we get a chance to, oh, sorry, that's actually the wrong section there. So let's undo that. I actually want the outer section, which is this one, to be 960, not the inner one. Okay, great. So now we are going to create this effect, and the effect is that essentially you have a picture here and an overlap, and there's a couple of ways to achieve this. The first way would be to put an image here and then use negative margins to overflow that, and then use margins to create that. And we can do that. I can show you how that works very quickly. Okay, essentially you want to go ahead and make the background the image. So I'm going to select this column on the right. I'm going to go to style, I'm going to go to background type, and I'm going to find my image, which is this one here. I'm going to insert it in there, and then we're going to configure this. So I want this in the center, I want it to be no repeat, and I want it to be cover. Okay, and then there's a little overlay going on there as well, so let's go ahead and add the overlay. Okay, so on the background, go to background overlay, and we're going to select a background type of color. I'm going to add a color there, and you'll notice that even though I've added the color, there's no overlay, and that's because it doesn't see any module in here. There's no element in here, and that will only show up once we add an element. So I'm going to add my favorite element for occupying space, which is a spacer. Once you drop that in, you can see now we have the overlay. Okay, now what most people will think to do is they'll say, well, what we could do here is maybe let's go ahead and add some margins, okay, to our left column. And you might say, let's add 50 pixels of margins, like that. Okay, and then we'll unlink this right here, and we'll create a, let's see here, we'll create 0 margin there, and on the left we'll have 0 margin as well. Okay, now if we want to shift this over to the right so that it overlaps, all I need to do now is make sure that my right margin is a negative margin. So let's go ahead and make that 50 again, but this time I'm going to do negative, and then I'm going to increase this margin, let's say to 100 on the right column here. Okay, so this is not moving for some reason. It typically does. Let's find out what's going on. So I have the column, and let's see, negative, that shoots upwards correctly. So type 50, negative 150, 250. I know why. So, excuse me. Yeah, so negative 50, but we also need a left margin as well. Okay, so that it moves. You have to match the margin. So we can do, let's say, 80 pixels here and 80 pixels on the left to push it over. Now, when you do that, you'll notice that this column is shifting underneath the other column. A simple fix for that, excuse me, simple fix for that is to go ahead and increase the Z index to 5. And now we have a nice overlap going on here. Okay, so this is one way of being able to do it, but this is a little bit limited, and sometimes you can run into issues with negative margins. So let's look at a much more cleaner way of doing this. So I'm going to go ahead and undo all this here. So remove everything that I just did. Okay, and what we're going to do is I'm going to go to this column, and I'm going to remove the image from the column itself. So go to background, click on the trash can and get rid of the image. And we'll also get rid of the overlay. So no overlay, okay? And then I'm gonna select the section out here, the main section itself, and I'm gonna add the image there. So go to Style, select the section, go to Style, click on the image icon, and we'll go ahead and grab our image, put it back. Now the image is going to be in the entire section. So you can see that. We'll set up our positioning as usual, center, center. We want it to not repeat, and we want the size to be cover, okay? Then we're gonna add our overlay to that outside section as well. So here's our overlay. And I'm going to say background type, color, and here's the overlay, okay? Now, the next thing that I'm going to do here is this allowed me to be able to see the section. But what I wanna do now is I now wanna create this effect. So instead of doing it the way that I showed before, this time I'm going to do it using a gradient. Okay, so now we're working on this outside section here instead of working on the column. We're working on this section. So I'm going to go ahead and change this over to a gradient like that. Okay, and in this gradient, I'm going to set the bottom gradient here to white. There we go. Okay, and then I'm going to set the top gradient here to white as well. Then I'm going to set the location to 50 and the second color location, to 0. Okay. Then the next thing that we're going to do here is I'm going to go to the second color that is white and I'm going to zero it out. Okay. So we can now see that we now have a clear section down here and a white section up here. But the white section is about 50% opacity. I'm going to turn that into 100%. Okay, so now it's now a solid color. So what does this do for me? Well, it basically gives me a cover. Okay. Now all I need to do now is move this around so that it benefits the section that I'm trying to create here. Okay, so the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to change the angle. And I want to change this angle to 90 degrees. All right. Now we don't see anything, right? Because it's all hidden behind here and the columns are flush to the section. So now I'm going to give this section some space. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select this section, go to Advanced. I'm going to select the M's here. And how about we give this six pixels all around. Okay. So now this has 6 pixels all around. Whoops. Sorry. That's a little bit too big. Why don't we make it, 4 rems all around. 4 rems all around is good. Okay, so now that we have 4 rems all around, I'm seeing that it's squishing my column a little bit here. So I'm going to unlink the values, remove the right values here and the left. Okay. And now when I go back to Style, under the background overlay, I can now move the white piece over, right? This is just a background overlay that's doing this now. It's creating the illusion that the columns are overlapping, but they're really not, right? So we can see the columns are still very much intact. It's just creating that illusion, okay? So here we go. Now this looks pretty good. So I'm going to stop right about there. All right. Now, what about the overlay, this purplish overlay that we have right here? Okay. Well, to achieve that, all I need to do is change this coloring here. Oops, sorry. Change this coloring here to the overlay. Okay. And then create some transparency and we're back in business. So when we look at this now, we've now created an overlapping login with the image on the right hand side. Okay, so very nice, very cool technique, very smooth. We're still able to maintain our proper widths and we're not using any negative margins to create this effect. All right, now what about mobile? How does this look on mobile? Well, let's take a look. If we look at this on a tablet, okay, that looks pretty good. What about on a mobile device like a phone? Okay, so on a mobile device, let me go ahead and close this out. On a mobile device, You can see here that this looks kind of wonky, looks kind of weird. We have all the spacing going on. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to fix that. And the way we fix that is you're going to select that section again. And all we want is on the mobile, we don't want any padding, right? So I'm just going to say 0 padding all the way across. Now, if you notice, we have this column right here as well. This column is still showing up. So we're going to get rid of this column entirely. I'm going to go ahead and select the column, go to advanced, go to responsive, and we're going to say hide it on the phone. So when now it's hidden, you don't see it. Okay, now all we see is a login. Okay. Now what about when we go back to looking at it on a desktop? Still looks great. Still looks great on a desktop. Okay. And that's how you create the overlapping login. Okay. Now for our final login, we're going to create this one here, right? The flowing video with the very cool designed login form, and then the empty white space. Okay, so creating this dynamic login section is actually very easy to do. Let's go ahead and do it right now. Okay, so I'm gonna open up Elementor. I'm going to add a section right above this one. Okay, we're gonna select a 1-column structure. I'm going to set it up so that it's fit to screen. Okay, so we can see what we're doing. I want no gap for the widgets, and then I'm going to go ahead and drag in a intersection. That'll give me 2 columns right away, and then I'm going to go ahead and set up this section to also have no gap as well. Okay, so now it looks pretty good. Now to save us some time, I'm just going to go ahead and copy this section right here, or you know what? Let me actually show you how we create this section, but I want to copy at least the form, and I'll show you how we do the background here. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and copy this. I'll come here and we'll paste it in there. Okay, I'm going to copy the heading here. Let's go ahead and put that in there right above it. There, perfect. Okay, so just so we can see what we're doing, we're going to go ahead and style this now. So I'm going to go here, select the column. And for the column, what I'm looking for is I want it to have a padding of 40 pixels all the way across. Whoops, that's 50. We want 40. Great. I'm going to reduce the section here width to 960 so that it's a nice compact login. That looks pretty good. Then we're going to do the background of the column. So select this column, go to style. We'll go to gradient on the style here. And for the gradient, the first color that we want is going to be this purple color, just like that. And we'll leave this other color there for now. I'm going to delete this extra login to your account. That must have been there when I was pasting. I couldn't see. Perfect. And then you can play around with this. So just play around with the angle. I want the angle kind of like that. All right, it looks good. For the border radius, I'm going to give it a border radius of 10 pixels. Okay, that's going to give us those rounded corners, kind of like you see here, these rounded corners. All right, so now we've done that. Now, how do we get this video and this cutoff and so on, have it overlay the way that it is over the video like that, okay? The way we do that is we're going to select this section right here. We're going to go to Style, Background, and the background type we want is video. I'm going to go ahead and paste in my video link. It's just a video that I got from YouTube. Now, as you can see, this already looks great, right? This already looks great. You could just stop right here and you would have a great login page. But we want to create that overlay effect where it looks like the form is overlaying the other column, right? So to do that, we're going to use the same technique that we used with this one here, okay? Except we're gonna do the same thing, but just in reverse, right? So the white part will be on the other side. So let's go ahead and do that right now, and so that we get this same layout right here. So to do that, I'm gonna go to Style. So I'm working on the outermost section right here. So I'm gonna go to Style. We're gonna go to Background, and actually this time we want the background overlay is what we're gonna be working on. We want that to be a gradient. Okay. The color we're going to select for the first color is going to be this purple color. And for the second color is going to be the white color. Okay. We're going to set this out to be 50. And we're going to set this out here to be 0. Okay. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to remove the opacity so it's filled in and it's straight white, just like that. And then we're just going to move this around. All right. So if you start reducing the angle, right, until it's straight, so 90 degrees, right? Now I get to be able to move by moving this color, I get to be able to create that illusion that it's overlaying like that, right? So this shows that it's overlaying just like that. Now we still want to be able to see the video. So we're going to select that first color and we're going to create some transparency. And there's our video right there. All right. So now that we've done that, let's go ahead and take a look at our work. So far that looks really good. Now there seems to be something missing. This seems a little bit too flat. So I'm going to go ahead and add a box shadow around it so that it pops a little bit more. So go ahead and select this column right here. Go to Style, under Border, you will find the box shadow. Just click on it and you'll get a shadow immediately. We want to adjust the shadow just a little bit. I like to go 50 to give me a nice big shadow. And then I like to reduce the intensity of the shadow just a tad so that it looks more natural. Okay, it still has that floating effect. So as you can see now, we now have our login. Looks just like that one. Maybe a little bit over too much, but still you kind of get the idea, right? So how does this look on a tablet? Well, if we look at it on a tablet, let's see it right now. See, it looks pretty good. This is how you would log in on a tablet. All right, and let's see how it would look on a mobile device. So if I go to the mobile device, on the mobile device, I have so many sections here. We're actually dealing with this section right here. Okay, so just this section. So on the mobile device, let's close this out. On the mobile device, it actually fills out the screen very nicely. We don't see anything else. So we're able to still log in and have it look very nice. You don't see the video anymore, and that's just fine. Okay. Now, if you're concerned, if you have a concern about seeing all this right here, the easiest thing to do, go ahead and select the section, go to Advanced, and put a 0 padding around everything. Oops, yeah. Put a 0 padding around everything. And that way when you look at it on mobile, there's no spacing whatsoever. Okay. All right, now let's look at it back again on desktop. And on desktop, still looks pretty good. So we've built multiple logins. We have the nice bubblegum looking login, just very simple, image on the left, login form on the right. We have the video overlay with the login overlaying the video. We also have this version where we actually have the login overlaying an image this time. So now you know how to create beautiful overlaying login forms and a custom login form for your website using Elementor Pro. If you like this tutorial, please go ahead and give it a like. And if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel and remember to hit that notification bell so that you can be notified when we release our next video. Thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.